Hello everyone, welcome back to Legacy. My name is Leonardo Caprelli. I'm the Academy Director here at the Football Domain Academy. So today's episode, we are going to be talking about how you, the footballer, can understand your strengths. Okay? And what are strengths? Okay? Strengths are something you're good at in the game. So, good at. Now, football is a huge game and a lot happens within the game of football. Now, your strengths may be other people's weaknesses, and your weaknesses might be other players' strengths. Now, that is where a team functions to its full potential, is when one player has a strength and can do something that another team mate maybe struggles with. So to put it into perspective, imagine that you're playing on a team where, minus the goalkeeper, 10 players on your team, so all 10 of you, outfield, are all good dribblers. So you're all good at dribbling, and this is your strengths, right? And then on the other side, imagine all 10 of you are not good at tackling or defending. So what's going to happen here is a couple of things. Your strength is possibly that every time you get the ball, your team is great at attacking. They're great at taking a defender on. They might be great at playing in attacking in the final third, scoring goals, etc. But what happens when the other team win the ball back and now they're dribbling at you, and all your teammates, their weaknesses are tackling or the defensive side of the game? What will probably happen is your team will struggle and you may concede a lot of goals. So that's why it's so important, especially as a coach, to know what the strengths and weaknesses are of your players. But in today's episode, I'm going to talk more about how you can understand your strengths and why it's important to know what you are good at. So I remember that when I was younger, I never had a fixed position. And in a way it was good, because whenever my coach needed me to play in a specific position, I could do that job. And I could do that job with confidence. However, the downside to it was I didn't understand my strengths. And neither did the coach. The coach didn't know where I was strong in. So that's why I became a sort of utility man, in terms of wherever I was needed, I played. But it's important for you, and especially if you want to take your game to the next level, that you understand where you're good at and what you're good at. So a couple of things that you can do to understand what your strengths are. The biggest thing that has helped me understand my strengths have been training by myself. When you train by yourself, you can start working on different areas of the game. So when you're training by yourself, you can maybe work on your dribbling, you can maybe work on your shooting, you can maybe be working on your passing, etc. Okay? So training by yourself helps you to identify your technical strengths. Now, this is great. But what happens is, the second point is where you start to understand what part of your game are your strengths. Because by yourself, you might be very good at dribbling. But then when you're under pressure in training or in a match, that's when you realise, do you know what? I'm actually not that good at dribbling. The second thing you need to do is you need to analyse. Okay? Analyse what you're good at. Now I take this training by myself as an example, and now I'm going to take this into your training, your team training. So say for example, we take that dribbling example, that by yourself, you look amazing, you look like you're going to be the next Lionel Messi. And then when you get put into a team environment where there's pressure, where you have less time on the ball, then you realise, do you know what? I'm actually not that good under pressure. This is where you analyse. You analyse and you come to a conclusion that, do you know what? I don't think that's one of my strengths. So then what happens is, when you start training by yourself, you can then change up your training session to then work on your weaknesses. So if your weakness was dribbling at players, because you realised that when it came to a pressured environment where I was under pressure, I struggled, then you start to understand that my strength was dribbling into space. So that's where the analysis comes in. Okay, so you're training by yourself, you're working on different areas of the game, then you take those areas of the game into your team training or your group training or whatever sort of training you're doing, and then you start realizing, do you know what? I think I need to improve on this. Okay, so you've taken what was a strength and has now become a weakness because you've analysed the situation. You've analysed what you're doing, what you've been training in, what you've been training. Now you've analysed it, and now when you go back to training by yourself, you can work on those weaknesses. But how do you understand your strengths? So you now understand your weakness, but then how do you understand your strengths? And it's exactly the same process, right? You're training by yourself, different parts of the game, but when you come to the team training or your group training, okay, and you analyze how well you've done, which really, if you're a serious player, when you get home from training or from a match, I would recommend writing 3 things down. So it's 3 areas that you've done well. So 3 areas that you've done well in the match, in the game. So if you felt that your passing was good in the game, write it down. If you felt that your defending, so you were really good at intercepting passing, write it down. If you felt your shooting was really good, write it down. So 3 areas. And then these 3 areas come under the analysis. So you've analysed now that within the match or the training session, there's 3 areas of my game that are my strengths. And what you simply do is you take these 3 areas and then you take them into your training. So you start training on your strengths. And that's how you understand what you're good at. But this only works if you're training by yourself. If you train by yourself, you can work on different areas of the game, which then you can take into your team training or your group training. You can then make an analysis on 3 areas that you've done well, 3 areas that you didn't do well, and then you take it back into your training. So what I always recommend is that if you feel that you're good at something, then keep training on that and keep working on it, because what ultimately happens is players enjoy things they're good at. So if I enjoy shooting, then I'm always going to be working on my shooting. And some coaches might disagree with me. They say that, yeah, you should be working on your weaknesses more. But I believe that it comes down to enjoyment as well. If you keep working on an area of your game which you enjoy, a strength of yours, then ultimately you will become a master at that strength, and then you will branch out into other areas and you will make other areas of your game stronger as a result of you becoming a master in something. So for example, if you're shooting, if your shooting is a strength and you become really good at it, what tends to happen is when you shoot first time, you usually work on your first touch as well, because if the ball's coming in, you're shooting it first time, it also comes under a touch. So then what you can start doing is taking the extra touch to shoot. So you enjoy shooting and you know that maybe my first touch needs work on. So before you shoot, your focus is always on the shooting, but now you're going to take a first touch and then shoot. So you're slowly introducing your weaknesses into your strengths without losing the enjoyment purpose. Okay? So if this video has helped you to understand a bit better your strengths, understand the process behind how do you develop your strengths, how do you understand your strengths, how do you analyze your strengths, okay, please like the video, please share the video, and if you have any questions with regards to this, and if you found it maybe a bit too complicating, then leave us your questions in the comment section. Okay, thank you so much for watching. I will